Galen Wolfe-Pauly to the stage. Dear friend and colleague. Yeah.
It works, right? It's kind of gigantic. Nice to see everybody. These things are always pretty special. Feels like not that long ago that we were doing these, they were like 20 people. So there are enough new faces here that I think I actually have to tell you what Tlon is, which is kind of a milestone. People used to come up to me and say, hey, you're the CEO of Urbit. And I was like, well, okay, I'm not going to, don't worry about it. But now the background kind of matters. So a long time ago, we started this company called Tlon. And the idea was always that we wanted to pioneer a new operating system, a new platform, and we wanted to give it away. Because all successful platforms are built like open source is built, right? It's a community project. But we noticed something about the old platforms, which is that the companies captured most of the value. And those companies are the ones that drove those platforms forward. So we thought, okay, well, maybe you could start a company first, you could incubate the platform, and you could give the company some real ownership in that platform. So the company is incentivized to make the platform the best it possibly can be. So we actually started Tlon in 2013 with the idea being that we never told anyone about Tlon at all. We only talked about Urbit. For all of that time, we basically just worked on Urbit. And over the last couple of years, we've pretty much given Urbit away. We moved over to the foundation. They've been doing a fantastic job, which gives us the opportunity to actually build products, which is, to be honest, what I actually care about doing. So I'm going to talk about the stuff that we've been up to, but in some ways I feel like Tlon, while it was born a decade ago, was kind of really just born this year. So to get to what we're doing, let's start with where we are. We're here in Lisbon. I've never been to Lisbon. Many of you have probably never been to Lisbon. And the interesting thing about getting this community together here is that we're not here because of Lisbon. We're here because we're interested in this thing. These people come from all these different backgrounds, all these different ways of thinking, all these different places to rally around an idea, around a project. And what I notice is that this is a very powerful thing, and it's a very online thing. The network can connect us to do something in a way that wasn't really possible even, say, 50 years ago. The weird thing about this community is that we rally in part around this idea. We are all very online, we are connected by being online, and yet we recognize that there's really no place online to be genuinely connected. Being online, for the most part, sucks, and that's why we're here. So I'll tell you two quick stories about why I feel like this community is the jumping off point for what will make Urbit this whole archipelago of communities. So the first one, something I was thinking about just last night. It's the first Urbit meetup ever. So I actually basically found Urbit on the internet, almost randomly. And afterwards I thought, wow, the people building this thing are really weird and interesting. I wonder who else is interested in it. So I just posted to the mailing list. I said, hey, let's get together and have beers. 2013, said, let's meet at Zeitgeist in San Francisco. And somehow like 30, maybe 40 people showed up. These random weirdos. And I remember this, I can't even remember his name. This guy had built a another operating system from scratch by himself. He's an early Google employee. Unbelievable, who is this genius? And he's attracted to this other weird pioneering operating system? Who are these people? Fast forward, just a couple of years ago, the first assembly. It was early in the morning. We didn't know what to expect. We're in Austin, starting to meet people. And I remember Ed. Where's Ed? There we go. Oh, there we go. I'll never forget this. Ed runs up to me, wild-eyed. He's like, there are crazy people here. And he was right. He was like, there are people building hardware. There are people building companies. Like, what's going on? The thing about assembly and about the Urbit community is that there are crazy people here. There are people here that you don't know. There are people here I don't know. You should talk to them. Because Urbit attracts something about it. There's this special energy that brings these people together. What's interesting to me is to figure out how to take the energy that gets created in person. You can feel connected here in this very unusual way. But how do we move that into the digital world? Because if you can preserve that energy, that sense of being connected, I think the world would actually start to look different. Because communities that can rally around an idea can have an impact on the world in a sort of disproportionate, unusually large way. It matters a lot how we are connected. You can take a simple example. It's almost a silly example in some ways. What if you just want to tell your significant other that you love them? This example actually comes from someone that we work with. I won't name them. Told me this story about how he created a group for his girlfriend. He curated it with all of this sort of ephemera from their relationship. And then he invited her there to show it to her. They're connected on Instagram. They're connected on Apple Messages, Google, whatever. They're connected in a bunch of different ways. And when she showed up, she said, I felt like we were using the internet for the first time together, like we were connected in this really genuine way. It doesn't have to be a relationship. It could just be that you want to tell your colleague that you care about them, that you appreciate them. It could be that you're trying to figure out how to repave the driveway with your neighbors. It doesn't matter. Some of these interactions are have real depth to them. Some of them seem trivial. But the problem is, you take any one of them, and the reality is, the way that we do this today is we have to use some app. And that app has to run on some server. And the reality is that that server belongs to some guy named Mark. You don't want to have to think about Mark, because Mark's got all these other priorities for you. He's got all these other things that he wants you to know, he wants you to think about. And I don't want to think about any of that bullshit. I want to take all of this stuff away. I want to take Mark out of the picture. Actually, I want to take the server out of the picture completely. I want to know that when we're connected as genuinely and authentically as we are when we are in person. So we knew this a long time ago. We knew if you can get the individuals to run the server themselves, of course that server is Urbit, then they run their own apps, they connect directly, and this is true. They're just telling each other that they love each other. The problem is, Urbit may be built to facilitate this, but let's be realistic, okay? Most of the people who matter to us, who we want to connect with, they're not on Urbit. Well, let's be realistic about why not. That's what we've been trying to do. Simple way to put it would be, that's not going to work, okay? People are not going to run this from the command line. They're not going to run it themselves. If you want people to be directly connected in a very earnest and genuine way, as we have worked hard to build the infrastructure for, it's got to be easy. It's got to be obvious. It has to be easy to sign up. It has to be easy to stay online. It has to be easy to use this thing. And it has to be easy to stay up to date, like with what's going on the network. Urbit's all about integers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, those are simple integers. So, okay, let's do it. It sounds simple. And for those of us who've worked on this for a long time, you think, okay, look, we're just trying to get one person, one Urbit, diagram should look like this, right? Well, it turns out what's easy is actually quite difficult. We were going through the infrastructure the other day. It looks like this. You want someone to just get online, talk to me over Urbit? It's pretty complicated. But I'm not going to go through this. No one needs to know about this. The whole point is that people don't know about this at all, and they don't care about it. Let's walk through some of what we learned this year around, say, making it easy to sign up. So at the beginning of the year, we started out with this. We're like, all right, look, you just got to go to a website, get onboarded really quickly. It was pretty good. Even by February, it's maybe a minute, 2 minutes. Could have been better. We worked through some kinks. And then we got to the point, it was actually so easy we were having these hordes of spammers showing up, thinking they were getting a free NFT, and they were overwhelming our infrastructure. So in some cases, you want to make it easy, but you can't make it too easy. We figured this out, figured out how to verify people, figure out authentication for different invites, etc. I won't get into it, but for the most part, this is working well now. You also have to make it easy for someone, once they've gotten signed up, to stay online. So I booted this thing. There's actually a node running an infrastructure somewhere. The end user doesn't care. It just has to stay up, right? It has to seem like a web service. So beginning of the year, well, we just boot a node for you, and we had no way of knowing ourselves whether it was online. Our monitoring service was actually you sending us an email. Just said, hey, why is this thing broken? That's not going to work. You need real monitoring. So we built that. We need to know proactively when something goes down, what's wrong with it, can we get out in front of it? Super important, deceptively difficult. Now it works. But you've also, probably most importantly, have to make this thing really easy to use. So we started out on desktop, and we learned very quickly that we're total nerds. People use desktop for gaming and for work. And if you want people to just use it casually, it's got to be in their pocket. So we built a mobile app. That first mobile app was kind of like a power user tool. It was like something that was a bolt-on to desktop. It was DMs only. We thought a lot about this. We'll come back to it. But it's obvious to us that if you want Urbit to be easy to use, it's got to be in your pocket. And if it's in your pocket, that means it also has to be notifying you, keeping you up to date with what's going on. So we built a push notification service that doesn't actually push the message to you. It actually pings the app in your pocket and tells your app, hey, go find out what that message is, so we're not leaking data directly to the phone. Works pretty well. Now, finally, later in the year, we're like keeping up with each other using Urbit all the time. But it's not quite enough. We're using Urbit. I mean, that's not the point, right? We're trying to get our friends to use this thing, the people that were closest to use it. So we made the last step. We actually got this thing into the App Store and the Play Store, use existing distribution, and just make it such that I can onboard somebody simply, quickly, in person. So that's what I'm going to show you. In some ways, this demo is incredibly dumb. That's the point. No one needs to know about the complexity behind the scenes. So I'm going to bring a friend, James, who actually helped build this thing, which is kind of a cheat for a demo, but I'll explain why I think that's actually like the right way to do this in a second. So let's switch. Give it up for James. James did really kill it getting this to work. Can we switch to my phone? Does this still work? Oh, I have to. One sec. Screen mirroring doesn't stay up forever. Work? Oh, I guess that's good because it's up above us. All right, so here I am. I'm in the app. This is, in fact, in the App Store, but I got to get James onboarded. So I can go to my profile, tapping on the thing in the bottom right, and now you've got this button in the profile to connect with others, and it'll bring up a QR code. So
I do not have the app.
Oh yeah, I made James uninstall the app.
My own app. I don't
Unfair to use someone who's an employee, but I did make him at least get rid of the app.
Yeah.
I'm going to have him scan this QR code and have him get set up so you can see how long it takes, and I'll show you around what's in here, and then have him, it should take him to sending me a DM. So for a quick tour, many of you are familiar with this. On the Home tab, I've got all the groups that I'm in. Most importantly, I'm in the Tlon group. We don't use Slack. We don't use Discord. We actually use this thing to stay connected every day. I'm not going to show you what's in these channels, but I will show you what's in Tlon Local. This is one of the community public channels that we run, which is kind of fun, actually, because we customized. So a group is a set of channels, and you can set the permissions in those channels to run them in a bunch of different ways. So for example, here's a notebook, a channel type, where I can have notes, and we can basically use this like a manual for how to use the app. We also got chats in here. We use the intros channel to introduce yourself. You should join, introduce yourself if you're not already here. And we put together a few assembly channels to sort of celebrate the event and stay connected while we're here. One thing I'll do, so we can use this together, I think I can turn notifications on here. So now this will actually notify me every time someone posts here. So now you can really annoy me for the rest of the weekend. Just to show the rest of the channel types, here, for example, is a link collection where in the community catalog, we're showing off other groups on the network. So hopefully you're getting close to the end. Did you make it? Oh, it looks like he sent me a DM, but we're finding exactly what we're here to find. I didn't get a blue dot. We actually know that's a bug. But if I go to the messages screen, I should see that James on stage sent me a DM. Great. But did you actually? Thanks. Oh, there you go. All right, and just to wait, let's post an image. Did you already do that?
That's right. That's right. We got to do the.
You can't do a demo like this without taking a selfie. So the other thing that we set up finally, for those of you who are sort of more familiar with what's been going on, is that now every hosted ship that gets set up, especially, and going through the app, has S3 bolted on. So when you get set up, you can immediately post images and share them. Let's see if that actually goes through. You want to put it in the assembly chat?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. And it turns out there are people in the audience who actually use this thing. Let's see. We can test our own latency. It's not great, I can promise you that. Although actually, sometimes it's faster than I think. Should we hold our breath?
3, 2,
We
1.
can also give up on it.
Yeah.
Every demo has to break, so I feel like we did pretty good so far.
In traditional fashion.
Maybe you should try DMing it to me. Although I think we're going to hit the same thing we did before.
I think
All right.
you dropped from the host. Everyone's waving, and you're not seeing it, so it's okay.
Oh, I got? Maybe I should try posting a picture just for... Here, let's end with that. That's pretty good. You guys want to wave at me? Beautiful. Oh, there it is. There you go. Yeah.
Just give it a sec, you know?
All right.
All right,
We can switch back. It seems simple.
I'm going to go.
Thank you, James.
Yeah.
Much
Thank you, everyone.
appreciated. But inviting our friends to this thing matters a lot. And it matters to us a lot. So I was originally going to just put a giant QR code up here. It was not my decision to put myself on this slide. I was going to put a giant QR code on here and just say, hey, come join us. But I think the right way to do this is actually to have that same interaction that James and I just had, especially the part where we found a bug. So I'm going to embarrass our team for a minute, and I'm going to have them stand up. So if you work at Tlon, can you please stand up for a second? Yeah, these guys do deserve. Teams, wait, stay standing. So I actually want you to get onboarded by hand in person as I just did. So you can find any of these people, including me, honestly, and we'll onboard you. The goal of this is really to be able to see from a QA and basically like sort of like refinement perspective, what can be better about this? Does this work? You know, how well does it work? So please, over the course of the weekend, help us out and get yourself onboarded. We want to know about it. Okay, you guys can sit down. Hopefully you remember what they look like. We were going to make hats. Last I heard, or I at one point heard a story that Telegram, Pavel sunk like $100 million into Telegram in order to get the first version to the point that he liked it. So we don't have $100 million, but we do have an incredible community. So anyway, your help is much appreciated. So why does this matter? And what's next? Let's connect this to the future of this whole project a little bit. Great. You could tell my girlfriend that I love her. I mean, come on. You've been working on this for a decade? It's a lot more than that, I think. Urbit is a project very much built from first principles. The whole original impulse here is to rethink how computing works in the cloud. And Urbit, in turn, attracts people who want to think from first principles about any number of things. There is so much in the world that can be remade. The whole world is ready to be rewired, and the people here are not just interested in building this system, but they're interested in building many, many other things. So when I think about the communities of the past that impacted the way the world is today, where would they have done business? Where would they have stayed connected? Certainly, if you were going to build Bitcoin today, you would not be doing it on WhatsApp. Nor if you were going to build the next Whole Earth catalog, you were going to inspire people to control their tools, would you do it on Facebook? Motivated communities change the way that the world is, but motivated communities don't really have a place to live. For me, this was the most important first thing to build because I felt like if we were going to build a new network and a new operating system, we had to build it on Urbit. And so our sort of gift to you is a place where you can build your community that can do great things and that can impact the world. But let's take the example, kind of a weird example, honestly, of prediction markets. Prediction markets are super interesting. It's a very, always struck me as something very promising. Could we bet on what the future is and better coordinate? So sure, could you build a community for this on Urbit? Yeah. But more importantly, you could actually build the machinery to do it on Urbit. Alphabet is an accelerator project to do this. And with what we're working on, at least in future, you could integrate this directly into your community so you guys can collectively make bets on what the future looks like. Turf, another accelerator project, a whole extensible 2D world. It's so fun. Why not integrate it directly into the community so that you can know what's going on there? But it's not just that you get updates, right? You could very well take action. You could imagine sending a command directly to Alphabet to make a bet on, say, the star price next year. And then we could use Vaporware to reward the winner of that bet with an assembly ticket that you then display in Turf. These things can be composed in interesting ways, permissionless ways, so that every community can actually control its own tools and use them extensively however they like. There's a lot of conversation now, more than I remember in the past, about the potential to build an everything app or a super app. Okay, for what it's worth, I've been talking about this forever. And the reason that it's interesting here is because you're doing it on top of a platform that actually belongs to everyone. So it's a cogent, coherent possibility in a way that it is absolutely not on any centralized platform. So we start with communities, but the point is that this is a place where communities can actually control their tools and shape them however they like, so their community can get things done and impact the world in the way that they ought to. I'm going to leave you with one last thing. I'm tempted to have you close your eyes, but I won't. I want you to think about yourself in a decade, maybe 15 years. Think about who you're with. Are you alone? Are you with family? Do you have kids? Think about the tools that you use to stay connected. And think very concretely about it, right? Are you still on Twitter? Are you on TikTok? What is it that you use to connect with the people that you care the most about? On my way here, I dozed off listening to this very random long-form podcast. And I woke up in the middle of the narrator describing how stars are born. So a star is born when a collection of gas starts to consolidate because of its own gravitational pull. And eventually, that gas gets so massive that it collapses and nuclear fusion occurs. There's the potential to change the way that the world is wired and the way that the world is connected, but that starts with the way that we connect with each other and the way that we connect to our communities. When you think ahead a decade or so, it is up to you how you are connected. Our goal is to be able to provide the tools to you so you can actually meaningfully make that choice. It's nice to see everyone. If we have time between talks, I will happily onboard whoever is interested right now. And I look forward to doing many of them over the course of the weekend. Thanks for coming all this way, and thanks so much to Thomas and the Urbit Foundation for making this such a success. It's a beautiful event. Thanks so much.